It is 9:30, so we're ready to get started. We'd like to welcome you to the May 19, 2022 meeting of the Downtown Design Review Committee. My name is Gary Jones, and I'm the chair of the committee. The following guidelines are in place for meetings in the council chambers at City Hall. Only the south entrance to City Hall will be open for access to the building. For exiting the building, all exits can be used. Air purifying machines have been installed in the chamber. Hand sanitizer machines, disposable masks will also be available. When called upon, applicants and speakers will come to the front podium to speak. Only one person at a time should come to the podium. Speak into the microphone. Please identify yourself when you begin speaking and address your comments to the committee, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Citizens may address the committee on agenda items by responding to the chair's call for speakers during discussion on each item and signing the speaker log in the podium. All comments must be relevant to the item. The chair or presiding officer may, in his or her discretion, prohibit a person from addressing the committee and/or remove that person from the council chambers. If that person commits any disorderly or disruptive behavior, please see the agenda for more information about these requirements. If you parked in the Sheridan Walker parking garage north of John Rex Elementary School, staff can provide a parking validation ticket to you. The agenda and documents are located at https://okc.primegov.com/public/portal. You would then select the Downtown Design Review Committee meeting, then click on an agenda item, and the relevant documents will come up below for that item. Desiree, will you please call the roll?
Committee Member Jones.
Here.
Committee Member Brannon.
Here.
Committee Member Blatt.
Here.
Committee Member Copeland.
Here.
Committee Member Serrar.
Here.
Committee Member Trujillo.
Okay, on the agenda, we have the approval of the minutes. I'll accept a motion for approval of the minutes for the April 21st, 22 meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes.
We have a motion from Mr. Blatt. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Mr. Brannon. Please.
With you guys about voting, and I forgot.
Okay.
But let's just go ahead and complete this vote like we normally would, and then I'll tell you about the change that I'd like to try, you guys to try today. So.
All right, we have a motion and a second. If everybody will vote. The voting has occurred. The motion passes, and we will turn it over to Laura to tell us about voting.
We tried this at Scenic River, and it worked. So the person that makes the motion on our next one, verbally make your motion and then hit the button. The person that makes the second, verbalize it and then hit that button. And we found that that was actually kind of working better. But then everybody wait until the next screen comes up to vote. So if we can try that. Because we had problems at our last meeting with the voting, and so we're trying to work the bugs out. So we'll try it today.
All right, we got it loud and clear. So on the agenda, next we have cases withdrawn. There are none. We also have continuous requests, and there are none. We have the consent docket. Any member of the committee can ask for this motion to be pulled. Unless there are any comments or questions, then we will also have a motion and a second in order to approve the consent docket. Okay, need a motion?
I'll move to approve this consent docket.
Okay, I have a motion from Mr. Blatt.
I'll second.
We have a second from Mr. Trujillo. So that we all follow Laura's recommendation? There it is. All right. Motion passes. We now move to the next on the agenda, which we are waiting for this to clear so that we can see it. Okay. We have individual cases for consideration. The first case is DTCA-22-00032 at 1204 North Hudson Avenue. Is the applicant present?
Yes,
Applicant
they're
is-
here.
Okay, staff, your presentation.
So some of you, maybe one of you, will remember we had a project approved at this location previously that was going to be a boutique hotel, and we had a lot of discussion on it. There were conditions with it, and it never got started. And so that CA, as I said in the staff report, has expired. So currently, this is a gravel parking lot. And streetcar is right next to it. The streetcar came perfect timing as I was taking pictures, so I could include it. And adjacent to this project, to the north, you all had this previously. That property's been put on the National Register. We're really excited about how that turned out. It looks really nice. And so this is just like the rest of that block. And I will go back. As you saw in the staff report, I had no issues. And if you have questions for me, you can let me know. The applicant's here, and we have their presentation that they want to provide for you, which includes the documents that they submitted, so that you can, if you wanted to discuss the actual design of the building. But first, do you guys have any questions for me? Okay.
Apparently there are none, so the applicant, if you're ready for your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, let me
Is this a voting button? Oh, gosh. I thought she was talking about voting buttons earlier.
So,
Good morning. My name is Mike Mays. Thank you for the opportunity for us to present this project this morning. I'm with Rand Elliott Architects. With me today is Rand Elliott, namesake of the company, Austin McKeel, and with the ownership group, Jonathan Dodson with Pivot Development. We're very pleased to be here today to request approval of the demolition of an existing parking lot in lieu of a 4-story building. The rendering you're seeing on your screen right now is the proposed building. It's a view from the southeast corner of 11th and Hudson. This rendering shows a 4-story building. It's approximately has retail of approximately 2,250 square feet on the ground floor. It has 12,500 square feet of tuck-under parking on the east side of the building, and then roughly 15,000 square feet of floor plate. So we're about 45,000 square feet total. The design concept of the building is to be contextually sensitive and modern with the existing fabric and in terms of materials and proportions of the surrounding historic buildings. The facade is inspired by the golden ratio, which is a proportioning system. You may be familiar with the Heartland building. We did that on that building as well. This one is just at a slightly different scale. Okay, sure. I can move maybe this off to the side. There we go. It's a little larger.
There you go. Thanks.
The proposed brick on this, as you see, is a smooth white king-size brick. It's got a custom groove in the face, which you'll see in another rendering. So it's a really nice bright brick. Matches the white of the adjacent building, which is Elk Valley Brewery, in terms of color. And there's a custom recess, as I talked about. The base of it has a plinth, and that would be a king-size gray brick. And you can see that just a little bit on this rendering. You'll see a little bit better on some others. But it basically addresses the grade change from the corner as it goes to the east. The corner brick detail is also interesting. It's an overlap finger joint corner, so you can see a little bit of that happening. It's in order for us to not cut a brick, but also to just give a little bit more detail to the street presence. So we're pretty excited about some of these subtle yet interesting details. There are 2 canopies proposed. One, as you can see here, which is an angular canopy on the west along Hudson, which takes its cues and reflects the existing historic building to the north, the angular geometry. It also is set at the same elevation, which creates a datum line and really kind of ties the block together. And there's also one on the south side of the building, which is very minimal. You can see it sort of there in the ramp stair configuration, and it's small. It's just to give a cue that that's an entrance. We made it minimal because it's adjacent to the streetcar stop. We don't want to interfere with that and have anything large and fussy there. There are large feature windows. Those are protected by sunshades. They're made of angle and tube steel. Those would be powder coated. So those big feature windows that you see on your screen have those sunshades. Let's see, the pedestrian and landscape zones, we've been carefully planned to engage pedestrians, bikes, streetcar stop, and we've got Chinese pistache that we'll talk about some of the landscaping proposed along the south, which will allow for high canopies while providing seasonal color. And we would uplight those at night, and the planting beds are kind of pretty interesting as well in that we're doing linear planting beds. Since there would be no parking along 11th Street on a streetcar stop, there's really no need for sort of the tree wells and to try to accommodate for a door opening with parking. So we chose to make that an entire linear landscape bed, which adds to the landscaping in the street, protects pedestrians as they kind of interact with the pedestrian zone. Let's see, I'm going to try the next slide here. Yeah, all right. This site plan shows the building extents. We are building on the property line on both Hudson and 11th. The shaded area represents these linear planting beds I just talked about, while the white areas and the straight lines on the sidewalk are sidewalk and plantings. There's a mechanical courtyard to the northeast, which is the upper right of your image there, and we're reusing the existing that's there. It's a sort of a horizontal wood shadow box kind of mechanical screen. They currently use that as a dumpster location, and there's plenty of room for a transformer and some other things. So we're reutilizing that piece, which I believe has been approved through the committee before. Bike racks, obviously, we talked about that a little bit when we talked about the rendering. Those are just to the right of the existing streetcar stop. You might be able to see within all of those notes the horizontal lines. There's 4 horizontal lines there just adjacent to the long linear landscape planting bed. This has a lot of information on it, this drawing, so we're happy to come back to it during Q&A. This is the first floor plan. You can see the tuck-under parking, as we're calling it, underneath the building, the extents of it, and then there's also on-grade parking, which is to the east of that. The entrance, probably should back up one. The entrance to that on-grade parking is along 11th on the east side of the property. So that's the ingress and egress to that parking area. It would be landscaped. We'd have Nellie Stevens hedges to make sure that that on-grade parking is obscured from the pedestrian zone. You can also see on this first floor plan that our future lease spaces, retail, what have you, sort of are on the north and the south of a common lobby, which would be a jump lobby for the 2nd through 4th floors. The corner space has glass that abuts both Hudson and 11th Street, so we're pretty excited about having that street presence. We think it's really going to activate that corner. This is the west elevation. Although you've seen the renderings, this is just a flat elevation that shows you that slope that we talked about earlier and how the darker brick plinth or base, if you will, extends off from the left to the right and sort of mitigates that slope that we're working with on site. You see the proportioning system, you see the large windows, you see that we're proposing a mechanical screen. That would be set back from the edge of the building. it would be a metal panel, architectural metal panel, and it would obscure all of the mechanical equipment. This is a exterior elevation to the west. You can see our horizontal canopy that ties in with the existing fabric of the historic buildings, really ties the block together. And then we have a main entry noted there. That's our lobby entry. Also see the mechanical screen there as well. And then this is the north elevation. This is would never really be seen in this in its clarity. There's a two-story building on this side of the property. There's an alley which is approximately 10 to 15 feet between this building and Elk Valley, which is just to the north. But you can see the large openings that we're pointing at there. Those are for ventilation for the on-grade tuck-under parking. We plan on putting some greenery there, kind of creating a little bit of an oasis, if you will, in the alleyway for future possibility of Elk Valley perhaps spilling out into that space as an exterior space. That's not part of this project, but that is part of the thought process behind it. And then this is the exterior elevation to the east. So this is both the ingress and egress into the tuck-under parking. And you can see, the brick plinth kind of turn the corner there. These are some of the materials that we were talking about. The field brick is a white smooth brick. We're not showing the groove in it yet. You'll see that in some renderings. The accent brick, you can see the color of that just being a slate gray. Wall finish at the interior, which you would see from the street in some cases. Roof mechanical screen, which is a metal, architectural metal panel. There is an infill panel, I forgot to mention, on, I don't know if you could see my cursor. Yeah, you can. This is a fire pump room. And so this is really in the alley, but you can see it at an angled view off of Hudson. So we thought we'd include that piece just to cover all of our materials. You see the sunshade and obviously the glass that we're proposing. Lighting, really minimal, modern lighting. What's really important about lighting to us is not the fixture itself that we're proposing, but the output. And you'll get to see some of that with these renderings that were coming up. Exterior planning, we're thinking about Chinese pistache to give a nice canopy, plus some color during certain times of the year. You can see the Walker's Low Catmint, ground covers Coloradus, which again turns a little bit red in the wintertime. English ivy, which is that grow wall that we were talking about on the alley side, and then compact dark granite gravel chips or screenings. This is a view looking southeast. This is, you see a little bit into the alleyway here. You can see the canopy and how it relates to the building. Adjacent to it, you can see the color of the brick and how it works with Elk Valley being right next to it as well. It has corner windows, which we think is a really nice feature. Here's a little bit of a night view just to get you an idea of what we were talking about with that modern lighting. The canopy itself is again, we're paying a little bit of homage to the theater, and this is sort of like a marquee, being at the same datum and elevation. So we envision, there could be names of tenants on here eventually, and we would come back and discuss that with you if that's what is decided. It's the flat elevation of the west elevation, so you're on Hudson looking back to the east. We have a stair that obviously runs from the lobby, or adjacent to the lobby, that runs up throughout all the floors. What we're proposing here, if we can get it in the budget, is to plant some ivy on the interior of the building and grow some ivy. So you would actually see this through the building at night. It would soften the sort of the aesthetic of the building itself, and we think be a really nice surprise. You also see some of the sunshade canopies, and we've got linear lights within those. Our goal is to sort of light those from within and scatter a little bit of a texture on the facade of the building to give some interest and animation to the facade. Here's that brick that I was talking about earlier. You can see it's about an inch wide by about 3/8 inch deep recess in the center face of the brick. Again, that is a scaled down version of the golden ratio proportioning system that really sets the tone for the rest of the building. It's a half running bond, so the recess lines up with the grout joint both above and below and creates a really interesting texture and visual for the facade. This is a south facade. We're pulled back across 11th Street, looking back to the north. You can see the existing streetcar line. On the left, just behind the streetcar sign, you can see there's a walkway that is an entry to the retail space, that minimal canopy that we talked about, and then stairs that help mitigate that grade change as it goes off to the east. And then a really good view of that gray, slate gray plinth gives the illusion that the majority part of the building is sort of floating, and we really like that aspect of it. Those long linear planing beds that we talked about earlier, and the downlight to sort of, again, set off the plinth of the building. We've also got a landscape buffer against the building to break up the hard edge and really feel like you're walking through some landscape rather than being landscape, hardscape, and then a building right adjacent to you. This is looking back to the northeast. This would be the ingress and egress for the parking. You see the on-grade parking. You see the Nellie Stevens or hedge that we're proposing to obscure some of the parking that would be on grade. And then you're seeing the large openings that would be the tuck under parking as well. One thing I should mention, but may not be part of the project, we're pricing it right now, is an Inset outdoor patio. So you can see my cursor here. We're looking at perhaps removing some of those windows if this tenant goes forward with this, and having an inset space which would be covered, but it would be an outdoor space for them to use. And then I'll leave you with the final image. This is a dusk shot that shows sort of all the lighting as it comes together and how this is really going to change this part of Midtown. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
No questions. But I do think it's worth noting, I mean, obviously compliance is achieved, but it's the level of detail and it's the attention to detail throughout the entirety of the building, all four sides, above, below, at the street level, the pedestrian experience. And it makes life easy for us as reviewers, because we get to enjoy your presentation and there's not a lot that we need to discuss. So I think it's worth at least commenting and commending the effort that was expended to get it to this point. So thank you very much to your entire team, because it's a good job.
Tony, point well taken. Point well taken. Are there any comments or anyone signed up to speak about this case? What's your pleasure? Okay, we're ready for a motion? Okay. Well, I need a formal motion and a second. I appreciate that, but somebody's got to. Excuse me. Do we have a motion?
I'm fine with making the motion,
Thank you, Tony.
but I'm going to go back to, so I give it the way that they want to hear it.
Okay.
I'm
Thank
going to
you.
make a motion to approve the application on the basis that the project complies with the regulations and guidelines of the Downtown Design District zoning ordinance as referenced in Section C and Section C of the staff report.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, have a second. So we will vote. Motion passes. Everybody's voted, correct?
Mine is not showing up.
Oh, yours is not showing? Okay, there you go. Got it. Fine. There we go. Got it. Motion passes.
Mr. Chair, I've got a pre-bid that I will leave at 9:20, or 10:20. In the event that that happens in the next presentation, I'll just get up and exit.
Point noted. Good news is that we have a quorum, whoop whoop, so we don't have to worry about that. So thank you, Tony, for letting us know.
I confirmed it, but I was also wanting to be here.
Thank you. All right, are we good to go, Laura? So you know what that means? He's going to be gone? Yes. Remember, that was Laura, that was not me.
Yes, we're ready. Thanks for pausing.
Okay, thank you. So the next case is DTCA-22-00034 at 805 Unit PG and 820 Dean A. McGee. Staff?
Thank you. And just to clarify on the addresses, so the PG stands for parking garage,
Thank you.
and the other address is actually the address of the building to be demolished.
Okay.
So the overall project that's referenced will actually have 805 Dean A. McGee as the address. So that's kind of how that is. So I don't know how often any of you are over in this area. This area was in Phase 3 of the intensive level survey, as I referenced in the staff report. And they referenced this large metal Quonset hut warehouse building, which was constructed in '29, but it stated on the resource form that it is not in the boundaries of an identified historic district, and it's not individually eligible due to lack of integrity. And as you can tell by looking at it, there was also a fire last fall or winter, I'm not sure, somewhere toward the end of the year, because what you're seeing on the end of the building is the damage from the fire. And so this building has not been used. When I was out there taking pictures, parking is going on for the project at 4th and Chartel, the large apartment building that had previously been approved by you all.
Right.
And so all the workers are parking. There were cars everywhere. I had a hard time taking pictures, and you're going to see all these cars in here. So I want to point out that it looks like Francis goes all the way through because it's paved right through here, but it only goes down half a block south of 4th Street, and then it was vacated and it becomes private. So even though you can drive it and it's nice and paved, it is not a public street. I believe there is an access easement for the property owners, because you will notice on the plans for the parking garage, there is access from this vacated right-of-way. You also have on your agenda the very next item, and I apologize for my typo when I referred to it. We haven't gotten to 54 yet, it's 35, but anyway. So adjacent to the north is the next application, and we're looking at that, and that's for a demo of these two buildings. So we're kind of going to be talking about this area for both of these cases. And so here's where I referenced all the cars, and I had a heck of a time finding a place to park. Dean A. McGee literally dead ends into this property. So it only goes half a block. It is a public street. And several years ago, we had a demolition of a building right across from the jail. Only one of you would have been on at the time, and Tony, you probably remember. It was a little controversial, and they wanted to do a parking lot. He ultimately got approval for the parking lot. We were hoping he would do parking in the building, but it didn't work out. And so this is the parking lot that got constructed. I think a lot of us know that it might be parking now, but at some point in the future, I hope we see a building on this piece of property and not a surface parking lot. And then to the west, I don't know what it's used for. There's cars there, but there's no sign, so it's a warehouse-type storage building. It's very large. And then this is on Dean A. McGee. This building was redone recently administratively, and they did a really great job. They're smaller buildings. Right now, part of this is being used as the construction office. So this entire area is kind of wrapped up in that construction of the apartment. So let me get back to here. So the demolition criteria, which takes several pages in your staff report, and I wish it was much shorter, but it's not. Has several different criteria that you can consider. They are guidelines, they're not regulations. And so one of them is the significance, and as staff said previously, this property has a lack of integrity. It's not individually eligible. And it also was damaged by fire. The other thing is, and I didn't reference in here, it's what they're replacing it with. And they're actually replacing it with the parking garage. And I know I didn't have any conversation about the parking garage, but because there wasn't any issues that I needed to point out about the parking garage, we got the rendering, which you all should have a copy. And I thank you so much for having that prepared. I think that helps us to envision how it's going to look at that area. Right. It will also help at a future date when we get the adjacent apartment complex submitted for review, and we can see how all the pieces of the puzzle fit in. And staff is recommending approval of the demolition and the construction of the parking garage. And we do have someone representing the application here. So if you don't have any questions for me, they can.
Are there any questions for Laura? There appears to be none. So the applicant, will you?
Good morning, Mark Zidzel with Johnson & Associates. Address is 1 East Sheridan Avenue. I will say, personally, anecdotally, this is a project I'm very excited about. I live about a block and a half to the east. And I think over the last 12 months, there have been, I think, 2 prominent fires that have happened in our city. One of them occurring on this tract. It was the building that actually fronted 4th Street. That wasn't part of our application today. It has already been demoed, but there was a large structure fire there. Last year, whole area was shut down for quite some time. Several weeks later, the building that Laura referenced also caught fire and hasn't been torn down yet, but does pose risk. I think we're fortunate that a developer has come to the table to assemble this property to do one project. And while we don't have the renderings and the images of the apartments, you'll be seeing those in the next couple months. What led us here today was project timing. We plan to start initial grading and demolition, which is what these applications are for, and then foundation for the parking garage, so we can get that permit in and moving while we work through all of the design and plans for the apartment buildings. But those are all under design currently. And I know there's a site plan, if we can look at that image.
Yeah, in the email that we only have pictures, so we're going to have to, I don't know how to get PrimeGov up to get to
I'll
the site
speak to
plan.
it.
Sorry, I apologize.
No, well, it's a great site plan, as
You
can
have it in
imagine.
your packet?
Yeah. It's in your packet. I think one of the things that we were proud of in the way the site has really come together is that we're not seeking additional curb cuts. We're going to reconnect the streetscape to this area. As you all well know, downtown is really starting to push west. Since Stone Cloud and West Village have really come online, we're starting to see a lot more development pressure here. And so Laura referenced the 400 West project immediately east of the site. This is really going to complement that. It's about a 4-story building on our side with a 3-story portion, and our garage is being tucked toward the back. Francis Avenue is partially closed and vacated, but fortunately there was an access easement in place that allows us to take a secondary access point. The site has, I think, unique challenges in that Dean A. McGee is really a half street. So we're not seeking to close that. We're seeking to use that as access for the parking garage. That'll be kind of the main front door. And you can see that in the rendering off to the right. There's going to be some architectural metal and some signage that we'll come back to you with the rest of the project. But there's a parking lot adjacent to us. So the piece that has been, if you will, more dressed up is that what will end up being that terminating vista on Dean A. McGee as you drive into the garage. There's a significant 35-foot tall structure to our immediate west, so visibility of the parking garage is going to be very limited. It's a precast structure. It's going to be 4 stories and have 365 spaces. We're anticipating roughly 250 units in the apartment project. With that, we're happy to answer any questions, but we would ask for your approval so we can move forward with the building permit for the parking garage.
Are there any questions of the applicant?
I do have a question, and it's not so much, I mean, from a functional standpoint, I'm in support of the project, but I know that parking garages are such a contentious issue all throughout the city, and just the fact that this particular site doesn't have the adjacent demographics that have come out to discuss it, I think that the questions that get asked of parking garages are still pertinent. So with respect to the way that cars are going to ingress and egress and kind of traffic impact to this site, ultimately this is going to start to get built out with residential usage. Has there been any consideration, or do you have an understanding of how this parking garage is going to ultimately impact the area from a traffic standpoint?
Well, I think from a traffic standpoint, I think the site is uniquely situated to handle a garage and how it's been designed. So we're accessing off a public street and what formerly was a public street. And on this site, we can go north, we can go south, and then we can also go out to Chartel. So I think the traffic's going to end up being dispersed better than most parking garage situations where they're entering likely out of one ingress egress out onto one street. So it allows the residents to really, have their say in which way they want to go and not inundate any one street with 250 units.
I think it's just helpful whenever we're looking at these that everybody's playing from the same rules and everybody's asking the same questions, and that way, as we go forward, we know what the precedent is. You said you're going to come back with signage that is intended to come back at a later date?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So that's the only question that I had.
Okay.
And I was actually going to follow Tony with, is this parking garage specifically designed for the use of the apartment complex, or who are your intended users?
That's correct. This parking garage will solely service the multifamily that's going to happen to the north.
Okay. And then do you have a time frame for your apartment?
Yeah, we expect you within the next few months to be reviewing all of the plans for the multifamily buildings.
Okay. And then also with the Dean McGee entrance going straight to your parking garage, I mean, you dressed it up right now. I was also wondering about signage and basically like what you were doing off of Chartel to draw people down Dean McGee.
So I think some of that will, if you were to look at the site plan, starts to make a little bit more sense. And then when you see the apartment project, I think it'll come full circle. That corner is going to be the leasing office and the amenities. So that alone is what's going to pull people down that street for the parking garage. And so within it, there will be guest parking right at the end for those looking to lease.
Will there be any walkability amenities included into this, like the pedestrian space?
Sure. So with the parking garage, because of how it's situated, that's not on this set of plans. It's what you'll see on the next. So Dean A. McGee will have landscaping, new sidewalks, as will Chartel up to the existing former cinema building. And then all along 4th, we'll have all new streetscape that's in compliance. We've been working diligently with staff about understanding exactly what the expectation is here. It's a little bit of a unique property in that we have 2 different zoning categories on it. So we fall into, while there are many of the regulations are the same, we are falling into a couple different categories, and we just want clarification on exactly the streetscape that should be provided here. But Laura has been gracious with her time and helping our team through that.
Great. I'm looking forward to your apartment.
Yep.
Other questions? Are there anyone that has signed up or wants to make a comment? Seeing as there are none, I think we're at a place now where we're ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the application on the basis that the project complies with regulations and guidelines of the Downtown Design District Zoning Ordinance as referenced in section C and D of the staff report.
I have a motion from Mr. Blatt. Do we have a second?
Second, Mariana Sarur.
Okay, we have a second from Ms. Aurora. Vote.
Thank you.
Come on. Everybody's voted? Oh, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm going to go ahead and exit.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Okay, we're ready for the next case, which is DTCA-22-00035 at 817 Dean A. McGee Avenue, DTD-2.
Tony. I'm sorry, just as a reminder, when you leave, you need to come out this way and not go that way.
Oh, okay.
So,
All right, is the applicant here? Of course.
yes.
After I said that, I was like, oh, okay. Okay.
So,
Staff report?
yeah. So this is adjacent to the north of the last one that I referenced. According to the Sanborn maps, this used to be a lumber yard. And so the two buildings that are proposed to be demoed are actually part of the original buildings that were constructed back in 1940. And once again, this property does not fall within the boundaries of an identified historic district and is not individually eligible due to lack of significance. Unlike the last one, and as the applicant referenced, they don't have the replacement project yet. So this is just for the demo, and this would allow them to demo all of these structures at the same time. The other fire that he was referencing up on 4th Street, you would probably recall it's where Carpenter Square Theater had all of their sets. That's probably what people remember. And so those were damaged so significantly, the fire department said they have to come down, which is why they didn't need a CA to demo those. This is also at the end of Dean A. McGee, but it's to the north of that. And here you can see the distinction between the one we just talked about and this one. They're right next to each other. And this picture is taken from the vacated Francis, which it's too bad they don't name it something different, and then we can know the distinction. But, and it's adjacent, this is the last one that you guys just approved. And this is the corner that is being used for an off-site construction site for the apartment complex that's across the street. And that corner is part of this subject property that will be coming in for the apartment complex that they were referencing. So, let me go back to that one. And so we do reference the fact intended multifamily use because they have indicated that, and that's what they said in their statement, in their letter. Once again, you have the many pages of the demolition guidelines. And as I referenced previously, these buildings were not considered to be individually eligible due to lack of significance in the intensive level survey phase 3 that was done in 2011. And due to lack of significance, staff is supportive of the request to demolish the two structures, and we're recommending approval of this. And Mark Zitzow is here representing this project as well. If you have any questions for staff.
Seeing as there are no questions for staff, Mark, any final comments or anything you'd like to say different than what you
Sure.
said on the other project?
For the record, Mark Zitzow with Johnson & Associates, 1 Sheridan Avenue. I have nothing additional to add, but happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions? Seeing as we don't have any questions, this would be a great time for a motion.
And Even though no one's in the
Oh, thank
audience,
you.
typically you would need to.
We did ask, thank you,
Yes.
if there are anyone that signed up or made a comment, but there are no one. So now we're at a position now where we're able to do a motion. Thank you, Laura.
Sure. I'll approve the application on the basis that the project complies with the regulations and guidelines of the Downtown Design District zoning ordinance as referenced in section C and D of the staff report.
We have a Copeland motion.
Second.
Mariana Sarur, second.
Okay, we'll give it to
Oh,
Maria.
sorry.
That's okay. Vote, please. Motion passes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Mark. All right, moving to the next item on the agenda, which is, and again, I'm trying to see it,
Which is other business.
other business.
Now,
So-
just to clarify,
Thank you.
because I was asked this, why are we re-electing? We just elected the chair in January. Well, we had to elect a new chair in January because Corey Bates had resigned from the committee. So this is the regular time of year that we do elect chair and vice chair, which could stay the same or not. Just as a reminder, Tony's gone, so you know what happens when you're on a committee and someone's not there and you have to elect a chair or vice chair, but just kidding. So
Yes, we know you are, and
Yes.
Tony has done his time. So, motion to elect a chair.
Uh,
Ray Johnson continue, Mariana Sarur proposes,
Okay.
Ray Johnson continue to the chair, the president chair.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second
Was
to
that
elect
Justin
Gary
that seconded?
Jones
Yes.
chair, just chair.
Okay. So I'm not sure how this all comes up. I'm thinking we're going to have to probably do a voice vote. So we had a motion by Mariana and a second by Justin
Oh,
for.
there it
Randy's
is.
coming.
Oh, perfect.
For Gary Jones to continue as chair.
Okay, and if the people making the motion will, Mariana, Justin, we can vote. The votes are being logged in. Motion passes. So now we move to election of vice chair. Need a motion?
I vote Justin Brown stays the same.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Aurelio has made the motion. Need a second?
Mariana Sarur, the second.
Okay, Mr. Err makes the second. We did so good the last time. Come on, Desiree, do your magic. All right. Need to make sure that,
We had Rosie as the motion
right,
and Mariana did the second.
second. There we go.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Who showed up here?
Yeah. Yes, we got it. Yes, it's on ours.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Interesting.
I'm just going to verbalize that the motion was made by Rosie Trujillo, even though it's not showing up on the screen, and Mariana Sura seconded it. So,
And then the votes are been made. The motion passes.
Oh, wow.
okay,
All
no
right.
change.
So we're no change. So we're good to go.
We're good for a year. No one can leave.
All right. So next on the communications, administrative approval reports you have been presented with. Are there any questions or comments?
I will just note that there are 4 of the new Northwest Bus Rapid Transit stations were in this, and we still have 3 or 4 more that we're currently working on. So hopefully they're continuing to move forward on that project.
That is. Comments from planning department staff? Do we have any comments?
We have a meeting next month. Please check your schedule. You'll be getting a quorum call from me, quorum email, I should say, from me to do that. We still have 1 vacancy, so I've only got 6 of you, and I need 4 for a quorum. So that's why it's really important that I have all of you that I can at the meetings. So,
Have we got any any progress on an additional member to the committee?
that is handled through the mayor's office, and I know that Katie touches base with them. Our vacancy is for a design review spot, which, since we do have the criteria, can make it a little more complicated to find someone to fill that seat.
Okay.
So based on the feedback that we have received, that there has been at least one applicant that has applied for the position, I did send a request to the mayor's office to ask for a status of where we are in that process. So hopefully we'll hear something soon.
Cool.
Okay, comments from committee members? Are there any? Seeing as there are none, then the next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, June 16th to 22nd. If there are no objections, we are formally adjourned.
Thank you.
Great job.